Hamish, you talk a lot about people first in construction, and that almost seems to form part of your core belief system from what I've seen you post on LinkedIn. How do you kind of incorporate that into your company's culture?
Yeah, it is something that is huge for me in the way I go about, I guess, my leadership style. It's one of the hardest things I've found to balance because ultimately profit is oxygen, and especially in the civil industry, that can take hold on a lot of things and create a lot of stress and pressure. So basically, the theory is it is people first, but without that profit, you can't look after your people. At its simplest, they don't have jobs, so
Fair.
um,
You've got to have an income
yeah,
to
that's
pay
the first.
salaries.
The profit is the first step, and
Yep.
getting that right. But looking after your people, knowing what makes them tick, how they operate, and being able to talk to them. Like as of this moment, I'd be almost be able to tell you what every person in Nelson and Blenheim is doing in the weekend. So on a Monday, I can say, "How was kayaking with your kids?" or "How was going to the rugby in Dunedin?" or whatever it is. It's those little contact points that really matters, and no matter what's going on inside those four walls of Schick and Nelson and Blenheim and across the country, that's what really matters. It doesn't matter what everybody else is seeing and what they're doing, and just showing that bit of vulnerability, I guess. I think I've been guilty of it over the years. You get put in a box of being this ruthless person to be able to be successful in civil. And over the last year or so, I've been putting a lot of work in that to open up a wee bit, be a bit vulnerable to the staff. And that
I wouldn't
has
call that being vulnerable, though, would you?
not so much on that front, but
I'd
more
I'd I'd probably word it differently. I'd probably call it building a community.
building a community, but being vulnerable when you don't get things right. Um, I haven't met somebody that's right 100% of the time. So when
Yep.
you make that wrong call, actually go and guys, I stuffed that one up.
I fucked up. I fucked up.
Yeah,
Yep. Put your hand up.
it's not something you see all the time.
Yep.
And it may like on site, you're laying a pipe, you put it at the wrong grade. You need your people to put their hand up and say, "Oh, I just did my checks and it's actually wrong." Not try and hide it, move on,
Yep.
that side of things. So people, you don't have a business without people. You also don't have a business without profit. So getting that balance right,
So,
and
how did you create that culture within Civils?
the hard way is
Go
the
on.
short answer. Um, you could ask anyone at Schick. I've probably made my voices pretty out there about it, about being more people first. I went quite heavy people first, and you get like too empathetic almost, and people start playing up a wee bit or taking advantage of a few bits and pieces. Your profit starts falling through the floor, and you learn the hard way that way by having a few tough months in a row, and you really got to take a step back and look at it.
Yep.
So getting that balance between profit and people is huge. You don't always get it right, and that's where that vulnerability and ownership comes in. When you don't get it right, is being able to go to the people or that person and saying, "Hey, look, I didn't get that one right. This is why." For context, and giving them the context of why, and they'll appreciate that, and they'll see it for what it is, and you move on and you keep talking.
So, where does that drive come from for you personally?
Um, it's interesting you say that because the last couple of months I've been doing a lot of work on my purpose.
Yep.
And initially it was I'll do everything for everybody to help them succeed. That's great in theory, but a purpose I think needs to be a bit more selfish than that. So what it is now is I want to be the best person I can be to be
Yep.
able to give everyone around me the best chance to succeed,
Fair.
and that's where it comes from. You can't do it without profit, and that's where the balance
But have
comes
you
from.
seen your profit rise directly uh, because you've built a great culture within
In
Civil?
the last couple of months, yeah.
Yep.
Um, I'm sure he won't mind a shout out, but there's a fella, Floyd in Nelson.
Oh, yep.
Initially, we probably clashed quite a lot.
Yep.
Um, he came from a maintenance sort of background compared to new infrastructure background. He struggled a lot, and then he probably got caught up in me on my ruthless side of things of that balance. But now he's just as of tomorrow his final sign off, but he's just finished a job on that, and it went unbelievably well. He's got to the point where he's actually managing the client himself, and doing bits and
How did you
pieces.
mend that relationship? Yeah, I almost sound. What I heard was there was a fractured relationship that was mended.
Yeah,
What happened?
time for one, and trying different things. I think it's important to remember that every single person is an individual, and just because one tactic worked for one person doesn't mean it fits everybody. And the way they receive information, the way they take information, it's all different. Some people are words, some people are numbers, some people are pictures, and you've just got to keep trying and keep figuring it out, and don't give up on the first go. Mm.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So what does that mean for the future of Chic Civil? You know, where do you see all this going? The people first culture. Um,
Schick pride ourselves on being, well, doing our best to be ahead of the game,
yep.
and I think that's part of it. And I think from a employment perspective, I think people will start knocking down our doors rather than us having to go out and look really hard for people. I think that's one benefit, but also just getting out there and getting it done and just enjoying it every day, going hard, and just going home like knowing that we're successful every day.
Work hard, party harder.
Yeah,
Yep. Build
yeah,
that culture so people come to you.
yeah,
I mean, that's pretty amazing. I really hope you do
mm,
succeed in that space. Yeah.
yeah.